I totally love chatting with Hannah Briar and her parents. I know this interview is going to give you some real insights and nuggets in supporting a young athlete through their developmental phases. I was so privileged about how honest they were, about their mistakes, as well as their successes in their relationship with their daughter as she pursues international glory in the sprinting circuit. Enjoy this video. As always with these things, take the principles and apply them to your context. Be encouraged where you see your good parenting mirrored in what Hannah's parents do, and be open to the possibility of reflecting on how your parenting might change from hearing this story. I'm so grateful to the Briars for giving me an insight into their world. Enjoy this video, but before you watch the interview, do remember to hit subscribe and like as you do. Thanks very much. Bye. Come on, here. He hasn't done that all day. I've been standing at this standing desk working away, and now you start like that. Brilliant. Well, I'm really excited to be joined by Hannah and her mum and dad, Lynn and Mark. Hannah, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a sprinter for Wales, 22 years old, and I've been doing athletics since I was about 9 years old. And yeah, I've loved it since then.
Brilliant. Excellent. And tell us about mum and dad.
So mum and dad are probably my biggest supporters. Not they admit to that. But yeah, they've sort of pushed me into sport from a young age, helping me with absolutely everything. I don't think I'd be where I am today without them. And yeah, they're just biggest fans.
So Lynn, how did Hannah get into athletics? Is that something that you or Mark had a history in, or it was something she picked up at school?
Yeah, I used to be an athlete myself. I was a member of Swansea Harriers.
Brilliant.
And as a teenager and into probably early 20s, and then encouraged Hannah and Joe, her brother, both into athletics themselves, and with a little bit of help from a primary school teacher as well, who was very, very sporty, and kind of pushed her in the right direction. And then when Hannah was 9 years old and was allowed to join athletics, because you can't until you're a 9 year old anyhow, insurance wise and so on, we just took her back to Swansea Harriers, and it all took off from there.
Brilliant. And Marcus, has it always been athletics, or have Hannah and Joe excelled at other sports? Was there a choice moment in life, or have they been like...
It's funny you should say that. There's been some, not so much for Hannah, but there's been some key moments for Joseph where he's reached a crossroads in what he thinks he's going to do. And we know the kind of journey that they go through in athletics, where they're putting all the effort in, and the results don't necessarily come back. I think Joe probably hit that crossroads, and because he was playing rugby at the time, I mean, a lot of rugby, a very good standard, getting hurt by him because he was a winger and he was fast. But at that crossroads, it was like, what do you want to do next? And we did kind of use that little bit of influence to say, listen, you need to look at athletics. It's less contact, it's more fitness, it's safer. Please do that instead. And then the helicopter coming down again, which is actually what happened. The helimed came down.
Oh, wow, okay.
So yeah, we have influenced them, but for a good, just in a good way. It's all about influence and positivity, isn't it? It's not about complete direction, but to be honest, we've got ulterior motives at the end of the day, and there's more than one way to skin a cat.
There is. That is very true. That is very, very true. So Hannah, you said they've been your biggest supporters, and so what does that practically look like through your teen years? What did that...
Doing absolutely everything for me. I think it's from taking me to training, paying for everything. I think people forget how expensive sport is. And when you're a teen, when you're a teenager, you actually don't realise how much everything costs. And that's something that's hit me now that I've got older, and I've started realising, wow, my parents spent a lot on my sport when I was younger, and the amount of time they gave up just driving me to training. When I was a teenager, I was training 4 or 5 days a week down in Swansea, which is about a 30 to 40 minute drive depending on traffic, and they did that 4 or 5 times a week. Then they drive me all over the country for competitions. So every other weekend I'd be somewhere completely different, traveling 4 or 5 hours, because we're obviously from South Wales and all the competitions tend to be in England. So we'd be traveling back and forth. So it's not they supported me in that essence, and it's also like the mental side of it as well, because growing up as a teenager who was okay at their sport and fairly good comes with a lot of demands and a lot of pressures, and I think it's just having mum and dad there to sort of bring me back to reality and say, right, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't all go to plan, or to sort of help me balance school and academics, which is something that was quite hard at the time when I've obviously been a teenager growing through GCSEs, A-levels. So just overall support, really.
So then what was that? Because obviously if Joseph was excelling at rugby and athletics as well, Hannah's going all over the country, even having to cross that bridge to come into dirty England for a bit of time.
And pay to get back.
And pay to get back. The audacity of it, hey, the audacity. How was that for you as parents, juggling that? Because I can imagine, and you both work, that's pretty full on.
It was there was a pattern. It would be kind of Saturday morning, take Joe to football. Saturday morning, take Joe to rugby. And then it was kind of, that was one of us. And then the other one of us would be taking Hannah in the opposite direction to athletics. Hannah also played a fair bit of hockey, didn't you?
Yeah.
And did ballet to quite a high level. And had to give up the ballet at the point where she really had to make the choice when she had to go up on points in ballet, which obviously wouldn't have done the feet much good for the athletics. So it was kind of, it just went in a blur. There's no other way to describe it. It's a shame in one respect, but it kind of just went in a blur. The weekend started, the weekend finished, and then we were back on the treadmill, and then it started all over again. That's the only way I can describe it. Probably from the age of 9 upwards, it just went in a blur.
Did you hear that, Hannah? You crushed their social life as well, not just...
I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
Well, I can understand now why they enjoyed the wine on the weekend.
They're breathing a sigh of relief.
Well, on a serious note, there, it didn't really crush the social life. It just opened it. It opened it up to a number of other things. And to a number of people you wouldn't necessarily meet, and to a number of experiences you wouldn't necessarily have on a Sunday morning, sat on a windy tri-line listening to a coach and thinking...
And the sporting parents have now become our friends.
Yeah.
They now are our social life.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, Hannah, long journeys to athletics competitions. Who was the better travel companion, mum or dad, and why?
Oh, that's an easy question.
I'd like to say that there was less stressful travel with dad, because dad sort of knows where he's going.
So nothing about the way they talk to you about athletics, just more about the navigational...
We do basic things. Are we going to get there? Answer yes or no. If we get there, then we worry about...
I'm sorry, I didn't realise that was going to kind of...
No, I think it's quite fun. We had a few times where all of us sort of went. It was sort of like a family
tour.
Yeah, it was like the Briar's on tour. I don't think there's no difference between either of them taking me, really.
She's trying not to hurt my feelings. What she's trying to do in a nice way is that mum does a lot of the technical stuff and understands things a bit better than I do. I'm kind of the guy in the background who kind of like...
The chauffeur.
Pick them up when they're down, motivate them when they need motivating, and chill them out when it goes wrong.
Yeah.
I think this is basically...
So you recognise you play a different role there in that, because, Lynn, of your own athletics understanding...
I think subconsciously, probably, yeah, because I think more intense with Lynn's work, because she does a lot of work voluntarily down with Swansea Harriers anyway, whereas I'm kind of a little, not even an outsider, but I understand what's going on, but I also understand personality, motivation, people, parenting, and it's positivity in every negative place. And that's where we got it. Because at the end of an athletics day, we've got to come back home and have some normality. And we've got to prepare the kids for that. And pick them up on a Tuesday afternoon when they're having a bit of a down day. And that's continued into COVID land. It's completely continued with the same kind of things, with the obstacles that COVID has given us, the training, access to track, and all of that stuff.
And we actually
No, go on, go.
We actually learned as well pretty early on not to even talk about the athletics in the car on the way to the athletics match. Even, I think a lot of parents may not realise this, but even on the way to an athletics match, even to say, I think you can do well this weekend, can be interpreted as pressure.
Yeah.
And
so you're smiling there, Hannah. Did that press buttons then?
Yeah, I think, well, we definitely learned that from an early age. I think, in all seriousness, I think I've got the best of both worlds with mum and dad, because, like, mum sort of knows everything to do with athletics, and is always there for like the specific advice, and she knows what's going on. She knows different, all the aspects to do with athletics. And then Dad does have sort of a knowledge about it, but also has that head on him that there's sort of turns it into a joke, and it's like it's not that much pressure. So like taking it back to on the way to competitions in the car, like I just like to act as if I'm going anywhere other than a competition. So it's life is completely normal up until I get to the track, and Mum and Dad supplement that, because everything becomes like not a serious environment. Like we're just chatting about what we're having for tea, what we're going to do tomorrow, and that's really, really nice, because I think if have that pressure of someone's constantly saying like, oh, so what's your plan for today, what do you think about this race, what are you going to do, what are your tactics, it's not good.
And the other funny thing, on the day of the race, and we usually sat in a Premier hotel somewhere going through the 45th time you've had breakfast at a Premier hotel, the same thing. But we don't put pressure on them. You eat what you want to eat. I know it sounds a little thing, but you start off, you must eat, you must have this, and yet they'll come back to the table with half a sprig of celery or something. But that's their choice. You see what I mean? And it's about really lifting away some of the pressure from it and trying to make it as chilled out. But I don't know, chilled out, but an awareness that you're there because for a serious reason as well. But I think and I think when it goes a bit heavily wrong is when you add the 30% pressure on top of the athlete, which then sends you into a boiling pan of water, if you like, and stuff doesn't happen well. So it's support, and understanding. And you've got to learn. I think you just learn that as the years go by, and you learn it when you do things a little bit awry. So, in my view, and they know this, is just chilled out. It's a race. You'll have another race. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. And you mentioned COVID there. I mean, Hannah, you've done some excellent stuff around kind of the pressures that athletes are facing. I mean, how come tracks aren't open is just a bit weird, isn't it, really? But but Mike, you talked about kind of keeping them grounded. What does that look like in practicality? I mean, Hannah, you talked about just joking around and being normal. Is that kind of just at home there isn't Hannah the athlete, there's just Hannah? And
there's Hannah the pain in the neck. You're right. No, it almost athletics is one thing that we do.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's one thing that we do. We do a host of other things. That's one thing that we do. So it's not the be all and end all of everything. And even I say even now, the challenge for both the I was going to call them children then, I get told off. They're young adults. The young adult.
When they're paying the bills, they're adults, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hannah, I'm joking.
I think people tend to forget as well. Like I said, when you have a talented young athlete in any sport, people only see that element of them. They'll say Hannah the athlete, Joe the athlete, and so on. And like I said, at home, there are a multitude of other things. There are other sides to them. They're academic as well. Hannah's academic. Joe
doesn't like academics.
Don't say that.
He's done really, really well. But I think Joe went through school for the social life. Yeah. Whereas Hannah's...
Joe had one biro from the age of 11, and he still got it, and he's still got ink in it.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no, and like I said, there's more to the young person than the sport. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it has to be balanced out as well. There has to be other things going on.
Fantastic. Hannah, on your bio it said you had some injury issues. 17? What did Mum and Dad do that was helpful to kind of keep going and stay motivated? Can you remember some of the conversations, some of the ways they treated you in that time?
Yeah, God help them in that time. Oh my gosh. It was really, really hard, I think. I'd never really had injuries before. And then all of a sudden, 2017, I had a whole host of injuries that I'd never had to deal with. And they were just there, again, just to sort of bring me back to earth. Like, there's more to life than sport. And I'm so young that I can't let, like, this injury define the rest of my sporting career. And it's just, telling me like it's it's going to be okay, and then providing all the different forms of support that they could. It's just making me realise that it's not the be all and end all. I think for a young athlete, you've had all this success, and then all of a sudden that gets stripped away by an injury, and that can be really, really hard. Because I know, as much as you say like there's more to a young athlete than just being an athlete. For that person, like I felt that was my identity, and it took Mum and Dad to sort of almost pull me back and say, look what else you've got in life. Just because you've got injured doesn't mean that you're a less of a person than you were already. Like you still working really hard towards other aspects. You know, this is just an injury, you will get back from it, and, you know, just a little blip. And it just made me realise that, I think.
And the injuries kind of set in. They just happened to coincide with when she left home and went to Loughborough University. And people only see that. And it used to really irritate me, and it still does irritate me when people say she didn't have the success after she went to Loughborough, perhaps that she did before she went to Loughborough. But it's a shame it's a shame she didn't stay in Cardiff or stay in Swansea and so on. But the thing is, what people don't realise is she chose Loughborough, Hannah chose Loughborough for the university. Hannah chose Loughborough for the course. The athletics was only second to it. People think that she's athlete first and everything else second. But this is what people don't realise, that there is more to them. Hannah chose that course in that university because that is what she wanted to study, and the fact that there was good athletics there was a bonus.
Yeah.
And that's so refreshing to hear, because so many families and kids just put all their eggs in one basket and hope that that's going to pay off, without realising that actually, if you're a multifaceted person, you're probably a better athlete anyway, because you've got an off button and you know how to chill out.
That's so important. And it's balance. Everything's balance, isn't it? And the off button and the de-stress. Take it out, forget about it, and do one other thing. It's so important. And you do see, don't you, fixation in some areas of sporting excellence where people are completely concentrating on it, and the whole family they bring their whole family to the athletics matches. People are ringing them before the matches, you know, and it's the pressure. It's just too much sometimes, and I think, and that's something I think you've got to learn yourself, really.
It's like, as young athletes, you're already putting enough pressure on yourself.
Yeah. Because
for you, it's such a big thing. You don't need everyone else putting pressure on you as well. Like, I think that's something I've had to deal with, is that I know I always put too much pressure on myself, and then having those other sources of pressure is just not ideal. And that's why I'm really grateful that these two sort of bring me back down.
And we picked up little things along the way, to be honest. I mean, obviously Hannah and later on Jo kind of went to some big competitions overseas, European Juniors, World Juniors, kind of World Youth Championships and different things. And there's little things that we picked up along the way was never to ring them, because that might be a convenient time for you. Yes, they're far away and they're not there with you, but the time that you ring them, you may sit down and think, right, I'll ring them now just to see how their day has gone. But they might be in a team meeting at that time of day and you've interrupted them, or they may be kind of doing some kind of psychological thing that they need to be doing at that time, and you've just cut across. So we just kind of learned to let them contact you if they want to contact you.
And that's a really good point, because we've had to actually send that message to people connected to our family, our extended family, and just say, leave them alone.
Did you know that, Hannah, or were you sitting in a competition going, Mum and Dad haven't rung me?
They hate me.
They don't enjoy me being away. They're not driving anywhere.
You are surprised, though, because when you go away on these competitions, like, you are so preoccupied by, like, the training and meetings, getting ready for competition, that it sounds bad, but you don't actually think about phoning home as much as, you know, there's not a priority. If I really need to talk to my parents, then of course I would. And it just gets to the point where you're just thinking, like, you know, I'm already in this environment. I'm already thinking about the competition, you know, because I'm in the camp or I'm getting ready for the competition. I don't need someone else to come and talk to me about the same thing, or for me to have to talk about it again to someone else.
That's brilliant. And I guess, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like WhatsApp in lockdown is killing me, because you know, our family WhatsApp is so flipping busy with nephews and nieces doing.
You don't see our thread, seriously.
Sorry?
You don't see our WhatsApp thread as a family. Honestly, we definitely would need counselling. So.
but even like, because technology is so easy to contact people these days as well, isn't it? And so I guess just trying to have that healthy boundary around, just I love that.
It work. It's also a little bit frustrating for us as well, because I just remember specifically, I think we were in Carly. I had to follow an athletics, one of the meets in Carly, wasn't it?
In South America.
Yeah. By Twitter, because there was no feed. Did you see what I mean? I actually followed the results of this by Twitter. How do you? I don't even know how I did it. I found it was Colombian. I found Colombian TV, and it was showing some cartoons. And I'm trying to find the athletics.
It's a world final now. I was in a world final and they couldn't find it anyway.
Couldn't find it anyway. so you just got, all right, chill out, Mark. It's fine. Just watch
the race, Mark. There'll be another race.
Yeah.
Don't use it on me. It doesn't work.
I feel like I can safely from this distance. Yeah. But I think you're right. That tension, that is genuinely that tension. And for parents when their kids are away, we want to know not only is the sport going well, but actually are they okay because they're away? And we know sometimes that they forget stuff or that they don't.
Yeah.
No.
I think some young athletes, they possibly, when they're away from home, they probably welcome regular phone calls from their parents. But then, like I said, the parent has got to sit back and think. Now they could be having their supper with their teammates, and they could be having a really good laugh, and then all of a sudden, mum and dad kill it flat, or they could be with a phone call. Like I said, they could be in a team meeting, they could be talking to their team manager, they could just be chilling. And like I said, no youngster when they're chilling out wants to be phoned by their parents. So it's just picking up little things like that. And little things like never talk about the race in advance. And then even after the race, even if it's the best race on earth and they're really, really, really thrilled, we kind of learned pretty quickly not to talk about the race,
unless
good or bad, unless they've talked about the race first.
It's almost play it down if it's up, and play it up if it's down.
Yeah.
It's almost that, but hitting that balance. Because if you go either side of that spectrum,
but only when you're allowed to.
Only when you're allowed to. It's difficult. It's write a thesis. You know what I mean? It's like the compliment things as well. It's like we know you're an excellent athlete. We know you're an excellent athlete. Did you see what I mean? So, but just keep motivated, and that's the key for us, isn't it? And in fairness to these two, both the children, they're young adults. We've never had to get them up for training. We've never had to motivate them to train. In fact, we'd have to demotivate them to train when they're ill and that type of thing. We've had to do it the other way around. So it's a whole raft of complete balance in everything that we are trying to do and have tried to do the last 10 years, isn't it? 10 years or so.
No, I often describe it as like, those 4-seater seesaws. Where you got, as a former prop, I used to love those because I dominate them. But
definitely a tight head. I can tell by you.
but it is, as parents, you're juggling your expectations, their wants, and I love the fact that you're saying about letting the young adults set the agenda for the conversation, because I think. Well, that's one of the things I say to parents. We love their sport. We love watching them participate, but it is their sport. And there are times as parents we have to set the agenda for other parts of life, but it's their sport. So let them set the conversation agenda. And the thing I say to parents more than anything is ask your kids regularly, not every week, but regularly, what's the best thing I can do for you on game day and training day? And then other than pay me loads of money for winning or, buy me.
It actually worked, though. It worked with Joe, which we scoring tries. It did actually work. It worked too well because I think anyway.
Yeah, motivate. Guys, listen, this has been a thoroughly brilliant conversation. Hannah, what athletics-wise is for you in the next kind of 6 to 18 months? Should we get competitions back? What are you hoping for? What are your goals?
I'd love to qualify for the Commonwealth Games. I think that's the biggest goal at the moment. I mean, that's quite difficult because I haven't actually got track access. I need gym access in Wales at the moment. So that's definitely like my biggest goal is to try and make that Commonwealth Games team. And then, as soon as competition's open, just go for it. The qualification period's open. I think that's the main aim at the moment.
Brilliant. Excellent. Fantastic. And you're doing a master's as well, aren't you? What's your master's in?
So I'm actually doing sports psychology.
Cool.
As a master's, Fantastic.
Great subject. There aren't enough good sports psychologists out there. So. There are a lot of good ones, but there just aren't enough. So, yeah. Briar Clan, thank you so much for giving this brilliant insight into your family life. I've loved it. There's so many rich snippets in there. I really appreciate your openness and honesty with a strange bloke from Essex that you've never met before. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.